Once you've saved three schools, at least three schools, into your portfolio through the school finder, okay, now you'll be ready to take another look at the schools that you selected. And for some of you, maybe you've already toured the school, went on a college visit, and you can really have a chance to write down your thoughts about that school. So here you can continue. Pulls up the different schools that you've saved in your portfolio. Before I put in the University of Iowa, Des Moines, Loras. Today I put in Coe College, Luther College. So you can record various things. But if you've gone on a campus visit, let's say I've been on campus at the University of Iowa, I can go ahead and I can edit that and edit my own firsthand notes, my own reflection on what that experience was like. So when you're ready, you can take a look at that. You can change the order of your saved schools, but when you're ready, you can just go ahead and continue after you've reflected on your college visits. Now for the next part, this is going to be another very relevant, I hope, guideway for you in terms of applying to college. They really typically say that you should have applied to all the colleges that you're interested in by early fall your senior year. So we're about a year away, but really it's never too early to go through the process. Hopefully that'll take a little anxiety out of the picture in terms of what that looks like. Online applications help ease the burden of applying to multiple colleges. So if you haven't done one before, here's just a chance to feel comfortable with it. So go ahead and continue. I do want you to read the directions before you go on. So again, here it describes the application process for admission into a college or university, how to use the practice application. So again, please read through that. And once you're ready, you can go ahead and begin the practice application. So it puts in your name for you already. It knows that because of your account, but you've got a lot of course, personal information, name and address, permanent home address, mailing address, contact information, email. So that's going to be pretty standard stuff. The next part is going to be personal information. Okay, so you'll just take care of all that. Citizenship, optional information, but do the best that you can on those. Enrollment information. So, are you a freshman, transfer student, etc.? Possible academic concentration, maybe majors if you haven't decided. You get the picture. Educational information. Maybe you can find your school here, type of school. Don't need to worry so much about the code. Guidance counselor, sometimes they're going to ask for my name, so you can go ahead and put that on there. Do the best that you can. If you know the phone number, 641-507-1409. School fax, you can find that on the website. If you've attended any other high schools, test information, if you've taken the ACT, when have you taken it, what are your scores, college information. Okay, so there's a whole variety of things that it's going to ask for. It's going to ask for academic honors that you've won since 9th grade. or you've been awarded, any work experience that you have, extracurricular activities are important to include, positions held in those. Short answer, please describe which of your activities has been most meaningful to you and why. So you're going to need to be able to practice going through explaining your activities, explaining yourself. Family information, parent 1, parent 2. So you've got, that's going to take you a little while to do, and they will. But just know that you're either going to know the information on these applications, or you're going to be able to find somebody that will help you with that. Once you're done, you can go ahead and submit your completed application, and it'll let you know if it's still incomplete, which, using my example, it still is. Once you're done with the application, though, I'm going to ask you to go back to your Guideways. You should be able to go back to your Guideways by just clicking on the tab that's still there, and then when you're ready and your application, your practice application is complete, you can go ahead and advance and continue. Step 7, our 7th Guideway, is some financial aid articles that you're going to want to read. Now, your senior year, we'll talk a little bit more about financial aid, but this is going to be a good idea for you in terms of how things get paid. Okay, sorry for that interruption, but really we're just looking at these articles so you can learn more about financial aid. So you need to click on each of them, double click on each of them, I guess, and you're just going to read about the cost of college. It's not going to take you long to do that, but it is something that you're required to do. You can learn a little bit more if you need to by clicking on these links, but it gives you an idea about what it's going to cost for a 4-year college, a public 2-year college, private non-profit 4-year colleges. So the tuitions is going to be different on all of them, but we always have to keep in mind financial aid really can help with that. So you're going to go through each of these, find out what financial aid is. Okay, again, not a lot to read, but we want to make sure that you do. Take a look at each of them. How do you apply for financial aid? So if you want to learn more about it, some of you have already had some questions about that. Just take your time and read through all of them. You have to read through all of them before you're allowed to continue. So it talks about FAFSA, free application for federal student aid. What is FAFSA? When should we fill out FAFSA? So it gives you some of that information as well. And then when you're ready, you can continue. We're getting close now to the last part of our Guideways, real close at this point, and it's the scholarship finder. So we looked at financial aid. Well, how else can you pay for college? You can pay for it with scholarships as well. So you can click on, after you've read through that, click on continue. And it's going to be about narrowing down the scholarships, because there are thousands of scholarships out there. So how are you going to figure out which ones are going to be most relevant to you, and maybe the ones that you have the best chance to get? So again, take your time. There's a whole bunch of ways you can narrow it down. I've narrowed it down a little bit already. U.S. citizen, I live in Iowa. I just put my major as education. Interest, agriculture, beef, television, just some random ones, but there are a lot. A lot of things. Find what you're interested in. Food advocacy, foreign language, feminism. I'm just looking at the F's. Maybe you're interested in law, mapping. They're all there. You can sort it by letter. Your interests, you can sort it by just all of them. Maybe travel. I'm going to add to my list. Okay. Update my profile. So now I've got travel included. If you're serious about this and you want to get a lot out of it, update as many of. I'd update all of these. It says here, the more data you provide, the better your list of suggested scholarships will be. So the more time you put into this, narrowing down the search, maybe the less time you'll need to put into actually doing all the scholarships. But here I'll see my matching scholarships. Double click. Maybe I'm just going to randomly pick the Get Google scholarship. I'm going to read about that. Maybe that's something that I'm going to want to apply for. It talks about award information, sponsor and institution information. It talks about the criteria, who to contact. It gives you a lot that you can take a look at. It gives you a website in this case. So this one was already in my portfolio. So I want to go back to the scholarship. With this, you're going to need to add 3 to your portfolio. Okay? 3 scholarships to your portfolio, and hopefully there are going to be some that are going to be meaningful to you. Maybe adopt a veteran. Okay, once you read through it, see if it's something that maybe would be of interest to you, you can add that to your portfolio. Once you've done that, we'll talk about applying for those maybe at some point, but once you've done that, you can go ahead and continue on. One of the last steps now is your plan of study. Now this is something that you've updated and worked on really since your 8th grade year, so you can continue here and take a look at your plan of study. Are these the classes that you're enrolled in? And I know many of you have changed your classes your 11th grade year. You can work on updating that, editing that, changing it to whether or not that you've taken it. Once you're ready to move on through this step, you can just continue, and the last part's the annual reflection. So the hope is that you've taken enough time where you have thought about yourself, some self-awareness, and then looking at what direction you want to go to next. So make sure you read through those, continue. Now, I've already done my reflection, so I'm going to continue out. There's the summary. And the last thing we're going to ask is that you take the survey for IHAPI Iowa. They can let me know the results. It's anonymous, so take your time and be honest with that. Hopefully, again, if you do that, if you take your time with the whole Guideways, it should be a good experience. So thanks for your time.